Welcome to this segment of Mind You and Food, brought to you by BeSimply.
Sometimes my head's alright, I dwell on my past lives, act like I'm transcending. But I gotta do my best to do what mama says, not get offended. Gotta try to abide.
Welcome to this segment of Mind You and Food. This is Suzanne Toro, and I want to thank you for being here today and taking the time just to dip into what it means to mind you and food. These segments are intended to give you culinary inspiration, local to national to global inspiration, in addition to remind you that we need to nourish our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual being to bring ourselves into harmony. So today I'm going to dive a little deeper. Did this a couple segments ago with herbal tonics. We are in the fall season here in the northern hemisphere, approaching winter. So this is a time naturally things get damp, cooler. People in very cold regions could be indoors a lot with recycled air. And so this is a time to be proactive. And if you follow proactive nutrition, meaning that you eat seasonally, in accord with what Mother Nature provides in your region, this will assist you on one level of remaining in well-being. There are two other things I'd like to note is one, if our emotional regulation gets really extreme because of something traumatic, we've lost someone or a relationship, this puts a taxing impact on our body. And more than not, and I've tracked this in myself, when that emotional upheaval happens, a couple weeks later, there can be a disharmony, meaning it could show up in a bacterial or viral infection. And so what you can do is if you notice, like, whoa, I just had this intense thing happen, that you can start basically replenishing your system, bringing it back in. And if you have questions about how to do that, message me. It's a little bit longer and more involved based on the individual and historically how you express yourself emotionally and where your vulnerabilities are in your physical body. And so from there, by identifying where you historically have a vulnerability there, again, you can do proactive measures to keep your body in well-being. And so it's a little bit more in depth. I offer gift consults to see if you want to dive deeper. So feel free. I'll put the link for that below. So how we map out during this time of year, there typically is stress because there's more to do, more, family obligations and a lot of busyness. And now coming out of our global brouhaha, I call it, people are having to get their full speed life legs back, and that we want to be mindful of so that you can really enjoy this season. So you have, emotional upheaval can make you susceptible because at all times there are basically germs, bacterial, viral loads inside your body and outside. So that emotional upheaval is what creates the imbalance. And then your system can be susceptible to basically a virus or a bacterial infection or other things. Long-term exposure to emotional stress, emotional distress, I should say, can lead to greater disharmony, which would be in Western language, dis-ease. So this is why I'm so passionate about eating seasonally and being proactive. Now, there's a third part of this that happens, and this is called karma. So if you want, come and listen to some of my Sunday segments, Soul, Silence, and Sound. You'll get sound therapy. You'll get a chance to be silent with yourself and a little Dharma talk. And in certain segments, we go and talk about karma, cause and effect in simplest terms. And so we do have these moments in time that, it is our moment to either pay back an effect, a debt that we owe, and that sometimes comes in sickness. And so at that time, it's a good time to sit down and go into the deeper roots so you can heal where this is coming from. And that is so powerful. And remember that karma, cause and effect, is not a punishment. It's an opportunity to have greater awareness about your past actions, even if you don't know completely where they came from, and how you can bring greater awareness to your future actions. So this is a powerful thing. If you're right now suffering from anything that's going around, take the time to slow down, listen deeply, and process what's there so that you can be free of it. Now, what can help you and will help you during this process is to bring your thoughts into well-being or keep the mind blank. When we go to worst case scenario and future forecasting, especially if you have symptoms and you don't know what they are, and you're basically creating a visual picture, emotional picture of disharmony or dis-ease or long-term illness, this builds and builds and builds. So the best thing to do is get to your most certain calm. And if you need help doing that, please reach out. One of my secret sauces, bringing people into calm, or you can simply go into nature and just let nature do its magic by sitting on the earth or putting your back to a tree. You'll come back into harmony rather quickly. So we want that mind, when you're in disharmony or distress, to come back. And what you can do is simply redirect what you want to be, not what is, but what you want to be. And be careful with your words and your thoughts. So if you're feeling pain, you say, I want to be pain-free, you're reinforcing that word pain. Say, I want to feel at ease. I want to feel supple. Remember yourself moving and running, or whatever it felt like before, so your body can remember and recall that condition. And as often as you do those memories of recall and well-being, this will really, really help you on so many levels. So play around with this. And you can do this when you're in well-being to build upon where you want to be, to redirect. Many athletes do these exercises to get the results they want, in their races, in their training, and so forth. Highly recommend it. Mind, body, emotions all play a dance with one another and your eternal being. The next thing is emotions. So when we're not feeling well, we want to surround ourselves with people that care because you're in a vulnerable state. And so there's been a lot of talk about that narcissistic traits and narcissistic pathology. If you were raised in this environment where more than likely most of you touched it one way or the other from immediate parental units or once removed, meaning their parents, that there may not be that memory of care, or you might have wanted to be sick to get care. So it's important when you're not feeling well that your emotions are being supported and there's someone that wants to do nice things, like maybe make a pot of soup for you. And so that emotional support is super helpful because it brings security to you. If you feel like you don't have anyone, reach out to me. I'm here. I will do my best to support. I do this for people all the time, and check on you and remind you that you matter. And nature is another aspect of this. So nature has this beautiful thing built in. That's why I recommend going out and sitting outside, especially if your emotions are a runaway train, the nature will welcome you back into neutrality and hold you and feel support. This is why an injured animal goes under the shrub to heal and to get better. So from there, you yourself, if you have a good support crew, whether it's nature, a close friend, family member to just look in and care on you, from there, you want to release the emotions. So when we go to those deeper roots, as I mentioned, that karma, when we go to those deeper roots, we can lift off some historical issues, because typically we all have vulnerabilities in this lifetime. So you might have reoccurring sinus infections. You might have reoccurring respiratory infections, all kinds of things. So when you go to the deeper roots during the sickness, it's not to take you into a deeper place, but just to allow it to come up. Have a gentle cry. Fall is that season to weep and release grief and to make peace. And so if you do this while you're ill, it's super powerful, because it helps you retain balance sooner and your recovery will be easier. And just do it bit by bit, just nice and gently. Sometimes it'll lift off without even having to have a full on, visceral cry and so forth. Now, some people might say, hey, I went through this big giant bout with my family member in cancer. It was super traumatic. I didn't get sick at all. And this is because if you're the support person, you're in the protector mode. And so you're full of this energy that keeps you and this other person safe and strong. And usually after the aftermath is when people get sick, because they finally relax and they allow themselves to process what happened. And the sickness is part of getting all those toxins out. When you're bringing your body back into harmony, it's a matter of releasing what doesn't serve in the body, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So the next point here, when you're getting into balance with your mind, your emotions, and then your soul, is to do reflective repose, sit and do nothing, stay off of technology, just sit and be. The longer that you can do that, the better, because the faster you will recover. And you can kind of feel into what the pathway is and where that root is. And I'm happy to walk you through that process one-on-one. Then the final aspect of this is the body. So people love having something to do in this process. So they want to have, nutrients to take, big pharma to take, all these different things. And the root reason I feel is that we as a human species here on this planet are used to the Band-Aid method, and we want to get back to that fast-paced reality. Again, if we moved a little bit slower, we wouldn't have such extremes with our sicknesses and our health and our well-being. We wouldn't go to such extremes even with the things we abide in. So the first step is to listen to your body. Number 2 is, I really encourage you not to do things that you've never tried when your immune system is compromised. You're basically having a response to something that's out of balance in your body, whether it's allergic, viral, or bacterial. And then if you start doing too many things at once, it will create chaos in your body and can prolong your illness. As I mentioned before, you want to do less than more and really think, okay, what have I done? What works for me? Then if you're curious about some of these other remedies that people are talking about, try those out when you're well, when you're strong. Try that herb just a little bit to see if your body reacts to it. Because imagine this, someone gives you an herb, someone says, oh, I use this, and you're really allergic to it. All of a sudden you've compounded your condition and will make it greater. And I've mentioned this personal experience myself. And so if you're looking for simplicity, I actually have it all dialed in because I can't do a lot. I love nature and all its qualities, and I recommend certain things based on people's constitution, but less definitely is more. Also, remember that nature replicates these properties all over the globe, so you don't necessarily need things imported from other countries. You can have locally grown herbs and plants and food that will be your remedy. Now, I wanted to share a couple of things that right now there's a lot of topic. I love seeing this. People are really getting into their wildcrafting, remembering that they can have their medicines that come from the garden to bring them back into well-being. And it's super powerful to see. And for all those, people out there that are fearful of this, please don't be fearful. It'll all work out. There's enough to go around. So people that are into big pharma and all those things, there's enough for you, big pharma. And for people that are into the nature's path, there's plenty of that to go around. There's no need for control, and Mother Nature will always win from my perspective. So I want to give an example. There's the thing called trends. I highly recommend do not follow trends or just try them because it's a trend. Understand that AI is basically artificial intelligence is capturing information from you and then putting it in front of your face and inspiring you to buy and try. And when you buy and try, it's not always in your highest and best interest. So it's important to take a step away from those environments before you do them. Now, you might discover certain things work for you. Fantastic. Again, do this when your body is strong. So right now, there's this trend to do onion, and this actually works. I won't dispute it. However, there's something that needs to be added to this, because what happens is certain like herbs like ginseng it's an astringent. It dries the system, and that would be applied when you have too much moisture in your system. And so as you dry the system, you need to add moisture back. And this is when we look even at coughing. A dry cough versus a wet cough is treated very differently. And so let's say you already have a really dry cough going on and you're trying to self-medicate with an onion, you might exasperate the situation. And so you need to add something back in. Or it might be wet, you add the onion, and then it starts to dry out. You still will need to add something in. The same with garlic. This heat gets the toxins out, but then you need to bring that wet in to balance everything out. And the same with herbs. So this is why less is more. And I see with a lot of my fellow brothers and sisters that utilize herbs like I do, sometimes there's the propensity, the ego gets involved. They're like, oh, this is my blend. And really, blend in the traditional apothecary way should be custom to the individual. One size doesn't fit all. When I blend teas, when I blend herbs, when I blend spices for your cooking, which from my perspective is one of the easiest ways to get a little herbal supplement in without having to take something daily. It's for the individual and it's unique to that experience. And that can change over the course of the year, depending what season they're in as to what they need. So just keep that in mind when you're starting to mix and match things. And if you don't add them in simply bit by bit, you won't know what works for your body and what does not. So if we go back to the drying properties, what's kind of going around right now is a very drying, like respiratory thing. So yes, that onion will work. However, you're going to need to add wet back in. And then both of these can be added to a soup, which we're going to discuss in a moment, that can give you the same medicinal qualities, but they're cooked down and then added with some spices and herbs to make it easier for the body to process. Or you can steep them and make a tea, which is really yummy. And you can even add a little broth in there, and it's like drinking a cup of soup. And understand that these also can impact your liver. Herbs impact your liver. So if you're already having some inflammation, young maidens to Crohn's, if you're having issues with hormone regulation, we want to address the liver. And until that's understood, a lot of herbs are going to make your system wackier than wackier versus come into balance. So it's a really process that needs to be handled one-on-one. Of course, there are times when people find things and they work perfect for them off the shelf, and that's a win. Just be mindful if you're not having success. Don't keep rotating and changing and switch hitting, because you're really going to not get anywhere with that. You're better to do nothing and eat simply and then, see what happens. So if you have questions about that, email me at s@suzannetoro.com. I'll put the link if you just want a simple herbal consult to talk about what you're doing. And if you want to go deeper, we can work from there. So the other point of contention, which happens in this drying mode, is that the hydration is really important. So right now, water is a very manipulated substance on our planet. We are primarily water. So drinking a lot of liquids, no matter what the condition, is going to help flush the system and is super, super powerful. So as we hydrate the system, you will come back into harmony. You can also hydrate the system by eating watery fruits and vegetables. A couple that are really helpful. This is from a medical nutrition class I took out of the University of Malaysia with this amazing gentleman, doctor, is that you can use tomatoes. Those are like aspirin. So you can take 2 tomatoes, you have a headache, take those, eat a lot of potassium-rich foods, watery foods. So if you get watermelon, pineapple, coconut, if you try cucumber, any of those things, keep it simple, wet. This is going to help hydrate you, and it's going to be a pure form if it's organic and clean for you if you don't have a good water supply. Now, there is a component, and I will do a show on this next week on water and hydration and getting it into the cellular level. There's a lot of talk about this too, that if the cells aren't responding, then you're not getting the proper nutrients in and the hydration. For all of you listening, if you're not in the field of wellness, nutrition, and so forth, this could be overwhelming. So what I teach my students is how to listen to their body, and then how, if they're, a client, meaning they're more of a patient versus a student that wants to go on and apply this to their private practice. There's 2 pathways there, but either way, I teach both of them how to listen, how to help their clients listen and their families listen, and then from there, how to identify the best call and response based on what your body's stating to you. So that hydration is going to be key. It'll keep your liver happy. It'll bring you back into balance. So to close out this segment, I wanted to share one of my always go-tos is to do hot and spicy soup. I love a lot of the Thai soups. I actually, for anyone, I have a handful, so it'll be first come, first serve, a packet of Thai recipes that are printed on beautiful cards. I'm happy. All you have to do is email me at s@SuzanneToro. Again, first come, first serve, and send me the best mailing address. I will mail them to you. Or you can say send me the email copy if you don't want me mailing you. And that's unlimited for anyone that wants it. The soups are a really great way to get the nutrients in, hydrate, and get the vegetables and sometimes the bone broths that are needed to bring you into balance. So you'll see all the veggies in the picture associated with this broadcast. This is what I threw together just honestly for my daughter that was coming down with some of the crud that's going around, and for me as more of a recovery soup. And so I'll share this. And what I typically do during cleanse and nourishments, I customize this based on the individuals. So I built this recipe based on my daughter and I. So this gives you an example. And I will post it on the website this week when I post that. I am behind. I've just had a wild time the past month and change, but going to catch up in this next week. So from here, basic, simple, as I've mentioned before, you want to build from the bottom up. So you're going to be adding oil, garlic, onion. You're going to bring it in. Then you're going to add your spices. I use cumin, parsley, marshmallow root, a spicy harissa mix that had paprika, cayenne pepper, salt, cracked pepper, and then fennel, thyme, and oregano. Put those all in. And then I used a chili paste that is used all throughout Asia in the different traditions. And that spiciness is really going to help get the heat and clear things out and do you so much good. And in this one, I had some roasted garlic. That's another great way to get your garlic in. during this time of year. You can keep it in the fridge. I always roast a head when I'm roasting other things. I put that in there so it had this extra nice flavor. And then I had all these vegetables that I got, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli. It has a lot of nutrients that help combat all these things that we've been through. So I had broccoli, mushrooms, which have your zinc. I had tomatoes, celery, carrots, cabbage, and I think zucchini. I'm trying to recall everything off the top of my head. And the picture's there. I didn't have room for the yam, but I would have put a yam in. I might put one in today. And so then from there, I actually had a tomato compote that I had made from a sauce that was mushrooms, tomatoes, oregano, thyme, all these yumminess. That was my secret sauce. I always like having a secret sauce. So I put all the veggies in, let them cook up and down, then added in a vegetable stock. From there, I added my secret sauce, and then I simply put it on the stove, keep it there. And if your environment is such that it's on the cooler side, you can keep it on the stove so if the family can eat on it for the next day or so. Otherwise, store it in the fridge or freezer if you want to pack it up there. But this is a way with the other liquids to just flush the system. So as we head out today, I want to give thanks for you all being here. I want to give shout out for all the people on the internet sharing their wisdom. It's really beautiful. And I just want to remind you all that one size does not fit all. Have reverence for what you're putting in your body and how you're applying it. And especially if you're in the practitioner field, be mindful that one size doesn't fit all, that people are on medications, and that you need to consider all things before you offer someone something as a solution. If you don't ask all the questions, then you are having a blind spot in helping them out. So be responsible. We all need to be responsible. There is such thing called as cause and effect, no matter what field you're in. So if you have questions, if you want the cards, send me an email. If you want support, send me an email or book a consult. And we're going to sign out with Kadri Scott, Keep It Local. And until next time, you have a beautiful day. This is Suzanne signing out with a full heart, a soft gaze, a deep bow, and a namaste. Be simply. Once again, I want to thank you for listening to this segment of Mind You and Food, brought to you by BeSimply. We're going to exit out with little Kadri Scott, Keep It Local.
Act like I'm transcending, but I gotta do my best to do what mama says, not get offended. Gotta try to abide. If you try not to fight it, you may feel quite enlightened, maybe even guided. It may take some practice before you exact it, but I promise it's worth your while. Gotta try to abide between you and I have yet to master do my best. Maybe I've earned my rest till the next life. Gotta try to abide between you and I have yet to master mine. Be right here, not just sorrows or tears. Take care of mind and soul, and your heart and body will follow. Be right here, not just sorrows